competitive communicators, where you only compete against yourself. I'll be giving a brief overview of how to work our Zoom. In the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you'll see a mute button. I would appreciate it if you would click on this right now, as you are not speaking, and continue to stay mute throughout the session unless you're specifically called upon to speak or are the speaker scheduled at this time. Next, we have a stop video. If you need to get up for your computer, iPhone, tablet, for any reason, or if you would like a drink or a snack, you can stop video. And once you're back to your desk, you can start video again so we can see your lovely smiles. And lastly is our chat button. Once you click this, it'll open a chat window where you can chat to the entire room, or by clicking on this down arrow, you can select a specific person, such as our speaker. And you can send them a private message on something that you really enjoyed about their speech, or something that you thought they could do for the next time that would make their speech even better. And as always, it is our policy that participating in our meeting, you agree that a recording will be available publicly on our YouTube channel, website, and other public media. Welcome again, and I will now pass our meeting over to our president, Aaron Long.
Thank you very much, though. So, fellow Toastmasters and most distinguished guests from all around the world, my name is Aaron. I'm the president of Comparative Communicators, where we compete with ourselves. I hereby welcome everyone to this lovely online meeting, along with our special guest, Rich Hopkins. Give a round of applause to Rich Hopkins for taking his time all the way to join us. We usually have our culture and custom to welcome every single one of our guests and members with something related to a theme or related to a meeting. So for today, I would like to let everyone introduce their name, where they're from, and one thing that they're looking for in this new year, 2019. So I'll start with Trisha.
Hello, I'm Trish. I live near Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which is a very historical town. And I've been a Toastmaster about a year and a half. And something I'm looking forward to in 2019 is finishing my area director here in District 38 and hopefully submitting my DTM. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Next, I would like to welcome, if I pronounce your name wrongly, please correct me, Marcus.
I just unmuted my phone. My name is Marcellus. I am from Phoenix, Arizona. I am a guest. I am a ex-Toastmaster. I've done it in the past. I am working as a mentor, and my mentee needs some guidance with public speaking. My suggestion to him was that we should work with Toastmasters again. I did some research, found this online activity, and am trying it out for the first time.
Thank you very much, Mark. Sorry, go on. My bad.
I'm good.
No, continue. Apologies for that.
For my new year, I'm looking forward to having my second grandbaby.
Round of applause for Marcellus. Yep, just to correct the pronunciation. Next, I would like to welcome Liu Ming up the stage.
Oh, thank you, Aaron. Hi, my name is Liu Ming. I am the VPM of our club. Right now, I'm based at Beijing in China. So if you have any question about the club, feel free to contact me. During the meeting today, I'm going to text message in the chat box, signing our guest buddy. We have a buddy system that is to support our guests to get to know more about us, about club. So please, everyone, pay attention. My invitation for you to take a look at the chat box from time to time, because I will sign up buddy. And and for our guests, everyone, enjoy our meeting. Back to you, our president. Thank you.
Thank you very much on that. Next, I would like to welcome our Assistant VPE, Nick, up the stage.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm really, really pleased to be here today. I'm looking forward to hearing Rich today. I'm actually Nick from England. It's middle of the night over here, so yeah, having fun. What I want to do this year is to actually break some eggs so I can make some nice omelets, okay? So make of that what you will. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Special thanks to Nick for making this lovely agenda for today. Kudos to him first. Give a round of applause for him. Next, I would like to welcome William up the stage. William, are you there? William. I think William may be having some technical difficulties, so I'll pass the stage first to Darren to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Darren. I'm from Brisbane, Australia. One thing that I want to do in the new year is return to climbing interstate instead of locally as well as. Thank you. I pass the baton back to the President.
Thank you very much. Next, I would like to pass the stage to Isabel.
Hi, thank you, Mr. President. This year I plan to speak a lot more often and build a momentum in my Toastmaster journey. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next, I will have Adrian.
Hi, good morning or good evening, fellow Toastmasters and other guests. I am Adrian. I too am a guest here, and I am originally from Eastern Washington, but I'm based in Arizona. And the upcoming year, I am looking forward to growing my business as I started my own consulting business late 2018. So I'm looking forward to growing my business and seeing where that takes me. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, and looking forward you to joining us more often as well. Next.
Yes, thank you.
Cheryl.
Good evening, everyone, or good morning, or good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Poirier. I'm coming from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And one thing I'm looking forward to in 2019 is a family reunion on my mother's side, because we haven't had one in my entire life, and that's not a short one. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next, I would like to welcome, I forgot to pronounce the name properly, Eselna, I think. Yeah. From Kanaskan. Yep. Please unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. I can't hear you though. I couldn't hear you. Can you test your mic again? It's good because it's actually for exchanges. We test our mics too. Yep. Nope, we can't hear you. Maybe you unplug your mic and then put it back in. I'll throw the stage back to you later on just to fix the mic. Next is Dana J.
Hi, I'm Dhananjay Parkey. I'm from Bangalore, India. Very good morning to all the Toastmasters. I coined a word called finitiating years ago, and the things which I wish to do in 2019 is to finish some of the tasks which I started in 2018. One of them is to complete my Pathways 2 levels, which I am currently working on. Thank you. Back to you, Aaron, Mr. President.
Thank you very much on that. And next, I would like to welcome Matt. Matt, unmute yourself.
Yes, I thought
No
I
worries.
clicked it, but it obviously didn't unmute. Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, my name is Matt Smidle. I live in Georgia. One thing I want to do for this year is to stop my procrastination. Mr. President.
Okay, I was in shock when I hear the answer. Yeah, you're on plus two, Matt. Next, I would like to welcome Rich, our workshop speaker for today.
Hey everyone, I'm Broomfield, Colorado right now. I've lived a lot of different places, but this is where I am for the moment. And my year goal is to speak more outside of Toastmasters than I do inside of Toastmasters, which would be a lot because I speak inside of Toastmasters a lot.
You're on plus two, Rich. Next, I would like to welcome Chris. Unmute yourself.
Okay, there we go. I thought I did that. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. I'm Chris Mitchell. I'm in the wonderful state of Missouri here in the United States. I'm in the southwest corner near Joplin, Missouri. I'm a member of the Greater Joplin Area Toastmasters. And my goal for this year in 2019 is to finish up my first Path and Pathway, start another one, and find at least 6 speaking gigs outside of Toastmasters. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Applause. And next, I would like to welcome our dear old friend Frank up the stage.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Or do I need to unmute myself?
No, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, you got me, good. Yeah, I'm on the iPhone right now. I couldn't get my computer to work, but I'm glad I'm here. And thank you, Mr. President. I'm coming from you from Indian Trail, North Carolina. And my goal this is to finish my pathways and start a second one right away. I don't want to lag at any time or anything, and also speaking outside of Toastmasters as much as I speak in a club meeting. And back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Frank. Next, I would like to welcome Sadar. I really have some pronunciation error, so please pronounce your name first.
Sure. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you are. My name is Sridhar. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. The goal, one of the goals I have for this meeting is I want to join a Toastmasters club and be a better public speaker.
Hey, you can do it.
Thank you very much, Sridhar. You practice a lot of different pronunciation these days. Next, I would like to welcome Rolando.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rolando Goldman. I'm in Palm Beach, Florida. My goal this year is to be more proactive and competitive communicator so I can provide more contribution. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Rolando. Next, I would like to welcome Shadarga, if she's still there.
Yay. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Mr. President and fellow Toastmasters. This year, I would like to learn about pathways and complete my first level of pathways. I am from Idaho. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Shadarga is a good friend of mine back in Royal Roads, and I always visit that club, and I'm glad to have her joining us today. Next, I would like to welcome Joan, if she's there. Joan? No? Teresa then, next.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I'm Teresa Palmer, currently residing in Alabama. And in 2019, I am looking forward to getting back into media, radio programming, as in February, I will be a guest on blog radio on the Empowered Women series. So I'm happy about that and hoping to take that further. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Next, I would like to welcome Jerry up the stage.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hello, fellow Toastmasters and guests. My name is Gerardo Hanlon, and I'm presently parked in the Great Smokies in the state of Tennessee.
Tennessee, yeah.
Yep, so for the near future, I'd like to get my upgraded cell amplifier in the mail so I could be able to participate more and volunteer and hopefully help do some roles and help the club more. Thank you.
Okay. Finally, I would like to welcome Jerry Wong, if he's there. Jerry? Wow.
Yeah, I'm here, but my environment is very noisy. Yeah, hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, it's very noisy. So.
Where are you right now? Okay, no worries. Finally, I would like to welcome Estella back, if she's still there, just to test the mic again. Maybe she has wonderful questions later on. Hopefully it works this time.
Hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Good morning. It's 7:04 a.m. and it's a good start of my beautiful day to see everyone here. And I'm here to support Nick today. And good luck, Nick, with your speech. And thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Back to you, Mr. President.
Nick, you have a lot of supporters now, I think. Yeah, finally, for me, my name is Aaron. I am from Hong Kong. Basically, for my goal this year, I would like to finish the 3 remaining paths, and hopefully I win the World Championship this year, but it's going to be so far. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, that's my goal for this year. Maybe ambitious, but start small. Start small. At least win the area first. Okay, so I will pass the stage for any amazing meeting for Toastmasters. There is always one key person. That key person facilitates every single operations of the meeting. Who is she? She is a Toastmaster of the day, and to me, she is a prized advisor of this club. Moreover, she is also the past district director, and moreover, she always have a nice background in her picture. And moreover, you can't use the word moreover too many times for unnecessary connective, but she is a lovely lady. With her, the meeting will sparkle. Give a round of applause to Cheryl Poirier as a Toastmaster today.
Thank you so much, Mr. President Aaron. I am honored to be the Toastmaster of the day for this particular meeting where we have such an auspicious guest. Now, our theme tonight is championship evaluations create championship speakers. I'm very much looking forward to hearing all of the ideas that come out from Rich and from all of our members tonight. I myself have been a competitive speaker. I've been as far as the district stage, even in an evaluation speech contest, but I lose. However, I learn from every experience, as we do from every meeting, every time we do something outside of Toastmasters related to public speaking or communication or leadership. This club is a great example of communication and leadership, the challenges that members overcome, and the great examples we see from our members. I'm sure we'll see some of that tonight. Now we have a reduced agenda with far fewer roles tonight because we want to give a long time for our guest speaker. We do have a couple of things that we do every week, and I'm so glad to be able to call on some of our members to explain their roles as well as to maybe give us some ideas. The first one I'd like to call upon for our inspiration before we get down to the nitty-gritty work is member Isabel Kaduri. Isabel, could you share your inspiration with us, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Speech evaluation is about constructive feedback. When we give constructive feedback, we need to incorporate constructive criticism. Here's a quote by Frank Clark. Criticism, like rain, should be gentle enough to nourish a man's growth without destroying his roots. Today, we will learn and practice how to give constructive criticism as gentle as nourishing rain for plants to grow. And we are grateful to have the opportunity to learn this important communication and leadership skill from our esteemed guest speaker, Rich Hopkins. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Isabel. An appropriate quote, and I loved your little explanation around that quote, why you used it for us tonight. One important role we can never do without at a Toastmaster meeting is our timer. Lou, would you explain how you are going to carry out that role tonight?
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day. Today, I'm the timer for our meeting today. Well, I have prepared 3 color cards in my hand. When you have 2 minutes away from your maximized speech spectrum, time spectrum, you will see the green color on the screen. While you are 1 minute and 30 seconds away, you will see the yellow sign here. When the time is actually up, you will see the red card on the screen. Then you will have 30 seconds to wrap up your speech. I once heard from somebody saying that time is money, my friend. So I think that's so true. Let's use the time wisely and mostly have fun. Enjoy the time. Thank you. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Min Lu. Those cards should be very easy to see. I'm going to diverge a little bit and ask Tricia, are you spotlighting Min Lu when you see the time come up so that our speakers can look for her?
Yes, I will be doing that.
Thank you so much, our Sergeant at Arms, Tricia Grove. We have one more role that will be happening in the background for the most part, and that will be carried through by Sunny Fridge because I'm convinced she will show up before the end of the meeting. Right, Isabel? She'll be there. And she will be our question master. If you have questions for our guest speaker, please put them in the chat box, and Sunny will keep track of those and read them out to Rich, so he doesn't have to look for them. Now, so if you haven't figured out how to use the chat box yet, do go down there, click on that little chat, and see how it works. You can send a message to me, but I don't know if I'll see it. Although I do see that Tricia has said she can be the backup question master if necessary. Thank you, Tricia. But I have great faith that Sunny will make it before the end of the presentation by our guest speaker. So we are going to do this a little differently. We have a test speaker tonight, or a target speaker, and that is our own member, Nick. And he will be followed by our workshop with Rich Hopkins. At this time, I'd like to introduce Nick. I assume he is lined up and ready. And he has handed me an introduction. I think that in a speech contest or an evaluation contest, there'd be no such introduction, but hey, this is Nick. And we need to know more about him. Nick is a future award-winning speaker. He is the president of Warrington Toastmasters Club in England. Nick is actively working on his ACB as well as on 2 paths in the Pathways program. And his ambition is to become a Pathways DTM. And at the same time, because that's not near enough work, he plans to establish a business online. Tonight, he undertakes the Understanding Your Communication Style project, which is in level 2 in the motivational strategies path. He'll be sharing how his communication style has impacted his personal relationship with his son. With his speech entitled, "I've Lost My Son," please help me welcome Nick Lahani.
I've lost my son. No, not in the mall. He's 16, he's not a baby. I've lost my son. No, not in the divorce. I think she's still happy with me. I hope. I've lost my son. He just doesn't blooming well listen to me anymore. What am I to do? Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and esteemed guests, this was a situation that I found myself in last year. My son, Ayush, was a few months away from some important exams, and he just didn't want to study. When I was his age, I always did my homework. I studied as hard as I could. I listened to my dad. Perhaps I didn't. Perhaps I'm not the first dad to experience this. Perhaps he's not the problem. I am. Some people spend their lives looking forward and looking into their next challenge and then overcoming them. Some people, like me, tend to look back a little too much. When I was a teenager, my dad didn't really know how to communicate with us. There were either smiles and please and thank you this, and then other times it was a bit of shouting and screaming. I always swore I would never be like that with my kids, especially my boy. Now it felt like 30 years on, history was repeating itself. So what could I do? Well, I looked into my communication style. What do I need to change? Was there anything that I could change? And what I found was that I could understand that I had 4 styles. The styles that I had were direct, initiating, supporting, and analytical. So what, I hear you ask? Well, from the different styles, direct communicators are decisive, competitive, independent, and confident, perceived as strong-willed or demanding by others. They prefer you to get to the point and focus on solutions. Initiating communicators are perceived as self-assured, innovative, persuasive, and a talker. They value interaction, share stories, and create non-threatening space. Supportive communicators are calm and steady and approachable and gentle and sincere. They may also appear indecisive. They give reassurance, encourage expression of concern, and give plenty of time to make decisions. Analytical communicators are precise, exact, analytical, logical, systematic, and task-oriented. They prefer you to present the facts and figures to them in an organized manner. Well, I'm a bit of this. You all know that. I'm also a bit of this. I'm also a bit of this. A lot of the time, I'm direct. Well, maybe that's a problem, you see. The first thing I learned is it's not good enough to know what your style is. It's important to know what the other person's style is. I can go through the different styles and actually use whichever one I want. But if I don't realize that my son was actually a supportive communicator, and I was speaking to him in a different way, no wonder I didn't get through. I couldn't get my message across. He shut out, and in fact, he would actually go and do something totally opposite. what I realized was 30 years ago, that was me. And 30 years ago, I'm my dad. He would tell me to do something, and I wouldn't do it. And we couldn't understand why this went on. As soon as I realized this, I said, decisive can be good for me, but in the right situation. When it comes to dealing with my son, drop this, be this. If I can be supportive to him, and if I can actually say things that he understood, give him the space, give him the ability to make his decisions, encourage him to speak up, then he can have control over his life and he can decide to go and work hard. In conclusion, what I found was I took the direct communication. When I dealt with my son, I screwed it up, threw it away. And every day I stick to this. I encourage him. I always encouraged him before, but I don't have the mindset of trying to change him. He will change himself. But because I understand more about my communication and his communication, this way I can actually talk to him and make sense to him. And then he can then decide what he wants to do. He's old enough now. The good news is he did very well in his exams. We're so proud of him. What can I learn from this? I think I've already learned it. Make sure that you find out how the person communicates and then communicate accordingly. In the future, in 30 years, I hope he doesn't have to go through the same things. I've lost my son. I made a change. Now I've found him again. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much for that, Nick. As a longtime teacher of teenagers, I can completely relate to what you went through, only I had to do it over and over and over again. I'm glad you found your son. So glad. And now, the reason we are all here tonight. I'd like to welcome our guest speaker, Rich Hopkins. Rich Hopkins has a DTM, and he's been in Toastmasters since 1999, where he's given and received an estimated 2,000 plus evaluations. In addition to 3 district evaluation championships, he is also a 3-time first runner-up across 3 districts. That's a lot of speech contest credibility right there. Rich credits his experiences in TI with his ability and opportunities to coach speakers worldwide over the last 15 years, be it for contests, for work, or for professional speaking. Please help me welcome to our virtual lectern, Rich Hopkins, DTM.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to my office. For those of you who do not know, one of my championship aspects is that I have 6 kids. And when you have 6 kids, you have lots of stories, so you get to have lots of great speech opportunities. But when you have 6 kids, the only room you're left to have your office in is the utility room, hence the background. Now, I appreciate the introduction, especially since I wrote most of it myself. The reason that evaluation is so important to me is before I became known as an Uber contestant, somebody who was always working on trying to win the world championship, my first ever contest was the evaluation contest. My first ever district trophy came in the evaluation contest when I took first back in 2001. It was a fall contest. So long before I ever got anywhere in the Toastmasters International Speech Contest. Oh, see now, I got to work on not being distracted by the chat box. I don't know if I should just shut it or not. But evaluation, to me, is the most important aspect of Toastmasters, because no matter what you are doing in your life, you need to learn how to give feedback. You need to learn how to take feedback. And as a speaker, you need to learn to know what to do with that feedback. And the more evaluations I got, the more I learned how to sift out what was good and what was bad. And even from everything that was good, what would work for me and what would not work for me. So that's something important that I want to make sure everybody gets out of this tonight, is that you need to learn to process whatever evaluation you get. Nick, I appreciate you being our test speaker tonight. I'm going to give you an evaluation kind of throughout my overall presentation as I give examples of different kinds of evaluation techniques. I'm probably not going to evaluate you too much through the beginning of this, because I really like to share with people the six worst types of evaluations you can give, because it's amazing how many bad evaluations you can actually get in Toastmasters, and how many bad evaluations that you can give before you know how to give a good one. And none of us want to be giving a bad evaluation. Well, none of us want to be getting a bad evaluation. So let's take a look at that first. And by the way, if anybody wants a copy of the notes for tonight, you can send me an email at rich.hopkins@gmail.com. It's rich.hopkins@gmail.com. I won't put you on any list, nothing like that. I'll just send you a PDF of the notes as I have them. So that way you don't have to be too worried about keeping up if you don't want to be. So the worst. Anybody have an idea what, I don't know how I can interact here, but I'm going to try. Anybody have an idea what the worst evaluation could be?
That was bloody awful. Didn't like it.
Somebody raised their hand.
I was going to say something that's not constructive, just very flat. Just you did a good job, or you didn't do a good job. No actual pieces that would be helpful.
Well, and that essentially covers two of my worst evaluations, including the very first one, the whitewash, where you don't do anything. You don't really say anything except tell them how great they were. And Nick, you were great. Wow, that was amazing. I loved the English accent. How many times do we hear that? When a speaker from another country gets up, I suppose you hear it all the time in these, but like here in America, somebody with an Australian accent or an English accent comes up, it just wows us. And so the evaluator's always saying, oh, I loved your accent. And the crumpling up of the paper, that was fantastic. You're just such a good speaker. I can't think of anything I can say that'll really help you, because you were just so great, Nick. Anybody gotten an evaluation like that? I'll bet you in a competitive speakers group like this, you've gotten a lot, especially if you've ever competed, and then people feel like, how can I possibly evaluate somebody who's won an area or a division or a district contest in the past? They're just so great. Don't whitewash. But the other side of that, as she mentioned, is flat, where they have nothing but criticism. And I call that the wrecking ball evaluation, where you just come in and demolish. And Nick, I'm not going to do that. I've been trying to think of how I could politely demolish your speech, and I don't think there's a way I could politely demolish your speech. There is the bed in the background, but we won't go into that. I had a member of my club, my very first club, who would get up and she would just kill people. We had a member actually leave, a brand new member, giving their first speech, and I don't know how, but she got attached as the evaluator for him, and he never came back. And with those people, you need to talk to them. You need to be careful who you assign them to. I guess you could just give them a really bad evaluation and destroy their next speech, so they give them a taste of what they're doing. But no, you really want to communicate. I mean, we are a communication organization, but you don't want to have nothing but negative things to say, because it isn't always just being destructive. Sometimes it's just, I have so many ideas for you to try, so many things that I noticed you did wrong that I totally forget to praise you because I think I'm trying to do so much to help you. Here's one I really can't stand. It's the recap. Oh, Nick, I loved your speech. You know, I understand what it's like. You were talking about you lost your son, and then you told us that it wasn't that he was too young, and it wasn't that you couldn't find him someplace. It wasn't that it was a divorce. And then you started talking to us about communication styles, and you define out, and you just basically recap the entire speech. I don't know why. I wonder if people are just trying to prove that they are listening to the speech. It's also a way to deflect from the fact that they really can't come up with anything to say, or maybe they don't feel worthy of saying anything about somebody's speech. So they go to a default recap mode. So try to avoid that. We've already heard the speech once. We don't need to hear somebody else's version of it, which also takes us into the hijack, where I would come in and say, Nick, great speech. You know, I've got a son, and I remember actually losing him in the supermarket when he was like 2 years old. Like, I was so just freaking out. And I spend the next 2.5 minutes telling my own story that I've thought of because of your amazing speech. I've just hijacked his speech. I've hijacked his evaluation time. I've hijacked his opportunity to get any value from my evaluation. Part of it might be that I don't know what to say. Part of it may be that I'm just so into myself that I want to tell an entertaining story and take my time and use it for me. Or there may be some, room in between those two extremes. We all have those times where, oh, I just thought of that. And what do you mean the yellow light's on? So be careful of the hijack. The checklist is something that really, as a new evaluator, can be very valuable to people. And it was more in the old communication manual where you had a lot of checklists of things you had to do for each speech, a lot of objectives. Now in Pathways, you seem to have fewer objectives, at least in the 2 paths that I've been working on. But you have a checklist of vocal variety and eye contact and gestures and those types of things. And you can just go down that list and give an entire evaluation based on that, but it doesn't necessarily give a tremendous amount of value for every speaker. It might be really good for an icebreaker. So that's something you need to think about in terms of knowing who it is you're evaluating, what they need. And that's why I talked to Nick before the meeting started to find out what he wanted me to evaluate him on more specifically. And I could tell I've done the speech project that you did, Nick. I've done it a couple of times because Pathways is very similar in certain early levels. And I really enjoyed the approach that you took. Let's see, that's it. The whitewash, the recap, the checklist, the review. No, I didn't do the review. I always mix up the recap with the review. The review is the whole Rotten Tomatoes thing. You either liked what they said or you didn't like what they said. It's all about your opinion of their content, of their subject matter, which really isn't the point at all. We're not here to evaluate what we think of what they said. We're here to evaluate what we think of how they said what they said. Now, a more advanced speaker might ask you to evaluate some of what you thought of what they said. But in general, this is about methods, about tactics that we use as speakers that we need to be evaluating to help people improve. The only time I can really think that you want to review their content is in a speech that is specifically supposed to be persuasive. And you could talk about whether or not you were actually persuaded or not. That's the kind of review that a persuasive speaker needs. The whitewash, recap, checklist, the review, the hijack, and the wrecking ball. Those are 6 evaluations I want us all to strive never to give again. Okay, so let's get into some evaluation theory. It's not about you, it's about them. And yes, I am reading notes on another screen. And that's okay, because I got a lot to talk about. Here's the thing. Like I said, I asked Nick ahead of time because it wasn't about what I was going to say. It was what he was going to need to hear. I need to craft an evaluation that is going to help him in the best ways possible. Now, Nick, unfortunately, gets to get an evaluation that's more based on my speech today than a straight evaluation. But I'm going to try to hit so that he gets more information than he would ever get before, because I still want you to get something out of this, Nick. The key is know who you're evaluating, what they can take, what they can't take. And one of the best ways to do that is to get with them ahead of time. They might be new. They might be me. I mean, you come and talk to me, and I basically tell you to come out with both barrels loaded. I want you to destroy me. I want a wrecking ball evaluation because most people give me whitewash evaluations. So I want people to come at me, and so I give them permission to come after me and find what they can find. Sometimes I regret that, but it's still, I'd rather have that than the opposite. So think about that. What do you need to do to help that speaker the most? Remember that this is your perspective. This is a one-to-one evaluation. It's your ideas, your opinions. And it doesn't mean that anybody else in the room agrees with you. You might be completely wrong. You might have seen something completely different. I can remember many speeches where I've had somebody evaluate me and say perhaps that I didn't use the stage well enough. And then somebody else comes up after the verbal evaluation and says, I don't know what they saw. I saw you using the stage just fine. You know, I don't know what they heard. Everybody hears something from their own perspective, their own point of view. And that's something to think about in contests too, is not every judge is going to hear you the same way. Not every audience is going to hear the same speech the same way. Every evaluation you give, keep in mind it's just your opinion. And that's good in a couple of ways, because it gives you permission to go out and give that perspective when you realize that everybody in the room knows it's just you. Take responsibility for your evaluation. That's really in your language, and it's part of perspective. Once you realize that it's your opinion, you can use languaging like, I thought, I saw, I believe. You can't say, you know, we all thought that was really funny in the middle because you don't know if they all thought that. Only you perhaps thought that, so don't speak for the entire audience. Make sure you're speaking from your own individual point of view. And that, in some ways, really lowers the level of pain for the person being evaluated, because if they want, they can just dismiss you. If you're being overly painful, overly destructive, at least use I words so they just know that it's your opinion and you're owning it. When I did TEDx back in 2017, they gave me a new evaluation formula, which I've tried in Toastmasters a few times, and it's kind of fun, especially when you do round robin evaluations. And it's the I love what if technique, where they had everybody listen to everybody else's speech and write down sentences that all started with either I love or what if. And then that way there was never anything really negatively said, but you were pointing out what you loved throughout their speech and providing creative ideas in the form of, what if you tried this? Which didn't mean they should. It was just getting them to stretch their minds, to look at their speech a little bit differently. So if you ever want to try something new in a regular one-to-one evaluation or with your group, if you're doing a round robin, especially when a contestant comes in, try the I loved and what if approach. Remember to tell them why. Why are you evaluating them in a certain way? You know, if I tell Nick that I couldn't see his visuals as well as I would have liked to. Well, the reason why, Nick, I'm not just going to tell you that they were somewhat off the screen. I'm going to show you that for the most part, I only saw this much of your page. That way, I'm actually showing you why I'm saying that. If I'm telling somebody that I think they should use better vocal variety, I need to tell them why. Because maybe if they use better vocal variety, it'll improve their gestures. If I'm excited, I'm probably going to use more gestures. But if I'm just telling you that I was really excited, well, great. That doesn't show any gestures. It doesn't show in your face. You got to change that tone to I was really excited. And it makes your face change, and it often will make your body change. So think about those types of things when you give that evaluation. Why should they use more vocal variety? Why should they use more eye contact? To make connection with their audience, to give them a chance to pause more after they're done. See, eye contact here is tough because, let's see, I can only see about 5 of you right now, and you can't tell if I'm looking at you or not. You all think I'm looking right at you, don't you? But in a real environment, yeah, you can use eye contact to pause, hold that group, get the people around that person kind of looking in at you like, why is he looking at them? And then you're off of them in a 2-second format. So there are ways to tell people why you're recommending certain ideas in your feedback. Show what you mean. And that's part of what I was doing in telling you the why. If I'm telling you that you should use more gestures, then I should show you what gesture to use. If I don't want you to just tell me that you blew the train whistle, that you should show me, then I show you what I think you should be doing to show me that you were blowing the train whistle. If you were in a box, I mean, you can go full mime. I was in a box. Do something. If I'm trying to tell you that you should use more vocal variety, I need to tell you where to use more vocal variety. I mentioned before about being excited. Well, what are you excited about? Tell me what you're excited about, and then show me the excitement in your voice. Let me hear the excitement in your voice, or let me hear the tension in your voice. Those are the types of things to do. So this is so much more effective in a real room. I'm going to have to get used to this. Strong written notes. We still do written notes in Toastmasters. I assume you still have some form of written notes even in an online club. And there are a couple reasons for this. One is in 2.5 minutes, you usually don't have enough time to say everything. 2, not everybody gets a lot out of a verbal evaluation, but they get a ton out of your written evaluation. So think about those 2 things. Plus, you have the opportunity to remember what you wanted to say that maybe you didn't say in your evaluation, so you can go up to them and mention that when you provide them with the written notes. And of course, written notes can help you have a more organized evaluation as well. Finally, summarize. Every evaluation needs to end on a summary. I forgot to even mention the cookie evaluation, the one we all hear about in Toastmasters. Have something good, and then put in the little critique in the middle, and then end on something good. Well, you're ending on a summary that wraps it up with the good things and the thing to improve on, but should still end on something positive. And then find a more creative way to say, I can't wait until your next speech. Because that's what we all say, right? I just can't wait. But summarizing your points is important just to remind the person who spoke what you were talking about, but also in a contest, a summary is 10 points on the evaluation form. And a lot of people get into this evaluation contest and they have no idea that a summary is 10 points. And so half of them don't have any summary whatsoever. They're just trying to get in before they go past time. And then the guy who does, or the gal who does the summary right, they get extra points. And it's like the international contest. If you show up in your club and you're in t-shirt and jeans and the person next to you is in a suit, guess who's getting more points for appearance? So know what your judging sheet says, and in this case, summary. Summary is crucial in an evaluation for a lot of different reasons that we've talked about. Bottom line, at the end of your evaluation, your speaker should be incredibly excited to get up and speak again. They should have ideas for what they can do better, but also feel great about themselves because you've given them enough positive feedback. If you're tearing somebody down, if somebody is, after listening, you just feels like, I couldn't do it. I can't do it. I can't do this again. And you're not doing your job. You as an evaluator are there to educate, but also, and perhaps to an even greater degree, encourage your speakers so that they can speak again and continue to grow. So that's the overall evaluation portion of this. I've got a couple of contest tips I can go into, but I wanted to get questions and build a discussion kind of based off what I've said. It's so interesting. Everybody's so quiet on an online group. Usually I get people raising their hands like Isabel just did.
Yeah, we do have questions. I received 2 questions. Tricia may have some on her end. So the first question I have is from Adrian. Her question is sandwich method for feedback a good approach for evaluators? Sandwich method means something positive, something negative, something positive. So what's your opinion on that?
Well, that is the standard. That is kind of the Toastmasters go-to formula. And it could be advantageous to help you remember to start and end positive. Here's my approach in a lot of speeches. I still use a sandwich, but I use a Dagwood sandwich. Does anybody remember the old Dagwood sandwich from the Blondie comics? It's this giant thing with every kind of meat, and then there's pieces of bread all throughout it, just ginormous. And the way I use that in a sandwich evaluation in Toastmasters is I'll be talking about their gestures, and I may mention something that I liked, and then I may mention something that they could improve, and then I'll move to another part of their speech and talk about what I liked and something they could improve, so that I don't just have a bunch of I liked with a bunch of improves that don't quite match up. If I can keep the likes and improves together in the same context, in the same category, they can be easier for people to remember. And I usually try to cram as much as I can into an evaluation, the same way Dagwood tried to cram as much as he could into a sandwich. Sometimes that leaves me into going overtime, but you know, who needs another ribbon, right? unless you're in a 55-minute club and you're taking away from the club. So yes, the sandwich evaluation to me is effective. It is not the only way to do it, but it is a way to make sure you're leaving them, if nothing else, leaving them on a positive note.
Yeah, I like the complex sandwich method. Another question is from Aaron. Is it always a necessity to give a summary of the speech given while you are giving the evaluation? Is it always?
You're not giving a summary of the speech. When I said give a summary, I mean give a summary of your evaluation. And it's not always necessary as an evaluator in a Toastmasters club as it's more necessary in the contest. Summarizing a speech in an evaluation can actually be a negative because it gives you less time to actually evaluate. So you might mention, when you crumpled up that piece of paper with that communication style that didn't work, I thought that was very effective. So I'm summarizing something that Nick did, but I'm not summarizing his speech as a whole. I'm not sure which end of the question, which direction the question was going, but hopefully I've answered either direction.
I think we understand. I just received another question from Teresa. Her question is, what if speech objectives are not met? What will you do as a evaluator?
depending on the speaker, again, it depends on how long they've been in Toastmasters, how important it was for them to meet the objectives of the speech. You know, if I'm evaluating somebody who's maybe in their first year, I won't mention that they didn't necessarily meet their objectives in an evaluation. I might talk to them afterwards. You know, I don't think not meeting the objectives disqualifies them from getting credit for the speech. I know some people do. I'm not one of those. I think you should get credit for the speech regardless. If you're a more experienced speaker, I might mention, it says here your objectives were this, this, and this, and I thought you met these two, but maybe not quite this one. That can also result from when you spoke to the speaker beforehand. Did I think Nick connected with his audience? That's what he wanted me to answer for him. And in his case, it's such a tough thing to do, to tell if he connected with everybody in an online situation. Did he connect with me? Absolutely. He connected with me both in the way he spoke directly to the camera, the way he tried to use his visuals, even if they weren't as effective as they could have been, the crumpling, the topic. I mean, I'm a dad. I know what he is going through to one degree or another. But did he connect with someone over there, another part of the world, another gender? I don't know. But I think he did as an effective job as he could to connect with me. So did he meet his objective? For me, again, owning your evaluation, he did. So to complete the answer to your question, again, it varies on who you're evaluating and how important the objective, meeting the objectives was to that person's speech.
Thank you. I thought the example of Nick's objective was very easy to understand. And I noticed every time you answer a question, even with a short answer, you also give a little summary to the end to give us a good recap of your whole answer. So that was
good. Well, thank you.
I would like to pass the stage to Tricia because some people may have sent their question to Tricia. Tricia, would you please?
Yes,
Tricia.
thank you. Thank you, Isabel. I have a question from Cheryl. Cheryl wants to know, or her thought was, sometimes content can be very high impact, even in an icebreaker. How would you evaluate the emotional effect when it hits hard?
Well, again, that comes into ownership. This is how your speech made me feel. I really connected with what you had to say. And you may mention briefly in one sentence that there's a reason. You know, the story that you told me about your son affected me because, like I said earlier, that I had lost my son in a mall. Or when my son turned 18, he went off to college and we hardly ever talked. But then turn it back to the evaluation of the actual speech. But mentioning that it had an emotional impact can still be a positive thing in evaluation because for a lot of speeches, that's the whole goal, especially if you're in an international speech contest.
Next, we have a question from Matt. His question is, for a professional or more experienced speaker who have all the basics down, what are some techniques of evaluating them that you would suggest?
Well, find out again what they want to be evaluated on, because professional speakers, and really any of us, you know, when we sit down after giving a speech, Nick, were you already thinking of all the things that you wish you'd done differently in that speech? Yeah, we know is the speech you want to give, the speech you give, and the speech you decide you're going to give next time, no matter what. So find out what level of an evaluation they want. But with a more professional speaker, a lot of times they are going to want you to talk more about content because they do have the basics down. They aren't worried about whether they moved around on stage. They may not even care that they had their hands in their pocket. They want to know if their speech had impact, if their points were clear. And evaluating whether points were clear is still a crucial part of evaluation, no matter how experienced the speaker was. Now, that was something I thought Nick did very well in telling us, you know, he couched it within a story, but the other objective of his speech was to talk about his communication styles, what he had decided his communication styles were. He delineated those very, very well, and then was able to give us his realization of how he needed to change those communication styles in a specific instance. And so I thought that particular goal was met as well. And whether Nick's been a Toastmaster for 2 years or makes $10,000 on the stage because he's been speaking for 20, I wish I was there. That is very important for him as a speaker to hear, is that he was or was not clear in the points that he gave.
Then I have one last question again from Cheryl. This time she wants to ask if, as the speaker, what you should say to someone who gives you a whitewash evaluation.
Well, luckily there's a general evaluator who should say something in their general evaluation to that evaluator about, you gave a really positive evaluation, and you know Nick is really hard to evaluate. There were a couple of things I saw that I won't take the time to mention now, but I think if you tried a little bit harder, if you trusted yourself a little bit more, you might have found some things that you could have evaluated that person on. And that's an aspect of this presentation I forgot to touch on. That is that a lot of new Toastmasters, they don't want to evaluate. They don't trust themselves. They don't think they have anything of value to say as an evaluator. And that is just not true. I have gotten some of the best evaluation content, especially in round robins when I've been competing, from new speakers, from speakers who are just visiting, people who aren't even in Toastmasters, because they're just giving me what they hear as an audience member. They're not trying to give me Toastmaster feedback. They're just saying, you know, I heard this and it didn't work, or I heard this and it was funny to me, or it wasn't funny to me. And it made a difference in how I could go forward with the speech. And so when you get into Toastmasters, suddenly you think, oh, I have to be perfect. No, just be you. Be you and give us the knowledge you do have at the level you're at. And that is going to be helpful, because it is, we take it as your opinion, and then we can do with it what we will.
And I actually have one last question from myself.
Sure.
What is your opinion as to providing the evaluation in a third-person tone?
In a third-person tone? Give me an example.
I have a advanced Toastmaster group, and when we provide our round robins, we say everything in the third person, so that the thought is, by doing this, that the entire group will be able to find something in the speech that could actually affect themselves, not just the speaker.
Give me an example of what that would sound like.
Today I felt that Nick did a very good job during his speech. However, he tended to leave his speech in the bottom left-hand corner of his screen, which made it difficult to read.
Okay. I guess I'm not perceiving that as speaking in the third person. I'm still seeing that as me speaking one-to-one, but I'm speaking more to the audience than I'm speaking directly to Nick. Is that what you mean?
Right, yes.
Okay, all right. I don't think that creates any negative situations. The only possible negative I can see is it might break your connection with the person you're actually evaluating. And depending on the level of speaker that person is, could hurt their reception of it. But other than that, you know, if that's the choice that that particular evaluator wants to make in terms of how they speak, I used to be more that way. where I would talk more to the audience than to the speaker. And in the last 5 to 6 years, I think I've switched more to speaking directly to the speaker with an occasional shout out to the audience. But I don't think that it negatively or positively affects the evaluation in either way. And your group, I'm sure, clearly would disagree with me and feel that it strongly improves the evaluation type, or your group would not have adopted that policy. which is absolutely okay. Well, and that reminds me of another story I often tell in this, and that is in 2006, the first time I went to the World Championship. I was working with Randy Harvey, the 2004 World Champion of Public Speaking. Is that heater on too loud for you guys? No? Okay. So I'm working with Randy Harvey, and I'm working for working with David Brooks, the 1990 World Champion of Public Speaking. And at the beginning of that speech that year, on the big stage, I talk about my daughter Rachel jumping on my bed in the morning to wake me up and sticking her fingers up my nose. And Randy Harvey thought that that image was fantastic, hilarious, very fatherly. David Brooks thought that people would think it was disgusting and mark me down for it. So what do? Which world champion do I listen to? Well, at the end of the day, neither one of them were going to be on stage. It's only you on that stage. So you have to decide, no matter how many people give you evaluations, no matter how much you value that person's opinion, what are you going to do? What are you going to be comfortable with so that when you get off that stage, you know that you went with your heart's desire, not with, not getting down and going, oh, I wish I'd done what I wanted to do. Any other questions? And can you guys still hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you fine, Rich.
Okay, good.
I
I can barely hear myself with that heater.
I do have one other question from Sunny. She wants to know what speakers have influenced you or inspired you.
What speakers have inspired me? There are so many speakers that have inspired me. The first speaker that I think I ever heard that I identified as somebody I would want to be like would be Zig Ziglar. I know that's kind of a cliched answer, but I heard him, I was in my early 20s, and my boss sent me to one of those seminars where you had all these different speakers, and I heard Zig, and I heard Mary Lou Retton, and I heard General Schwarzkopf, and they were all inspiring, and they inspired me to think about communication more, even though I wasn't in Toastmasters, didn't really even know what Toastmasters was. Within Toastmasters, there are a lot of the world champions that inspire me. Darren has always inspired me. He and I are kind of kindred spirits in some ways. But everyone who I've seen win the championship, the people I see on that stage, what it takes to compete, even if you're only competing in your club, is inspiring. So maybe instead of telling you who inspires me, I'll tell you why a speaker will inspire me. A speaker inspires me when they are transparent, when they're vulnerable, when they're honest with what it is that they are sharing with us. Because anybody can get up there and give me a bunch of platitudes. It takes somebody else to talk about the fact that they weren't always perfect, and own it. Not just use it as a lesson, but hey, in Darren's case, he wasn't funny. In Zig Ziglar's case, he was a lousy salesman at first. But if you're just giving me a bunch of platitudes, if you're just telling me that you're an awesome person, that doesn't inspire me. I want to hear honesty and transparency in the speeches that you give.
Rich, I got another question. It's from Cheryl. Her question is, will we see you in the international speech contest again, or we will see you in the accredited speaker program?
Those are questions I ask myself almost every day. I had really thought about competing this year because obviously I live in Denver. Broomfield is next to Denver, and the conference is in Denver. And then I realized that they changed my district conference to the same weekend that I'm going to another district conference to keynote. So I'm not going to be able to compete at my own conference if I were to get that far. So it looks like I am out of competition for this year, which may give me the incentive I need to go after the accredited speaker.
Actually, I don't really understand what is the accredited speaker program. Would you please explain a little bit to our new members about this program?
Sure, it's a certification that is not based on competition. You know, the World Championship is all based on competition against each other to a degree, whereas an accredited speaker program, you still get judged, but not against the other people competing or the other people going for accredited speaker. You're basically judged against specific criteria that you either do reach or do not reach. At least that's the goal. And it's a much more professionally oriented accreditation that brings in various factors like how many times have you spoken outside of Toastmasters and the money that you've made doing that. Is your message a professional message? You know, can you speak for a longer period of time and hold an audience? There are a lot of different things with that. And I'm sure Aaron right now is thinking, we ought to bring in Cheryl Rauch because she'll talk all about the accredited speaker and know everything about it. Whereas Rich only has a very basic understanding of what an accredited speaker is. But that's kind of an overview of an accredited speaker.
Thank you, Rich.
You bet.
I think
I wanted to hit, Aaron, do I have time to talk just a little bit about two other points I have for winning an evaluation contest? Oh, I see a yellow piece of paper. So I'll try to go fast. Humor is a big key when you're giving an evaluation in a contest. If you're able to make people laugh, particularly the person you're evaluating, the judges like that because they see you as connecting and it's entertaining. And evaluation in a contest is not quite the same because it is more of a show. You still obviously want to give value because that's part of the judging sheet, but you can create more of a show to entertain the audience because the audience is there to hear that evaluation just as much as the speaker, whereas in the club, it's much more of an educational situation. So turn it into education plus some entertainment, and you'll have a better chance of winning. The other point, and to me this is more crucial than anything, even the summary or the humor, and that is when you are thinking about your evaluation, think about the one thing that you could say that only you will think of, that only you would say. Everyone's going to comment somehow on eye contact. Everyone's going to talk about gestures. There are things that just every contestant is going to talk about because it's the standard Toastmaster approach. What have you seen as an evaluator in other speeches that you could bring to this evaluation? What are your what ifs that you can mention to the speaker? You know, what if you tried this by using these parts of the stage instead? What if you wore clothing that was different than the clothing that you're wearing so that it would more greatly accentuate the theme of what you're talking about? What if, you know, it's tough to say. You know, what if Nick had, you know, I couldn't even come up with something creative for you because it's been about a half an hour. But I'm sure I could think of something. But find a way to be creative so that when the judges think about your evaluation, there's something they're thinking about that is different from every other evaluation that was given. And hopefully it's a good thing. So any other questions or anything else, Aaron, that I can cover for you guys?
You can leave it to the floor to ask any questions if there's any further ones. Anyone wants to ask a question? No. Then I leave you to wrap up with one sentence about.
I have one
Sure.
question. I have
Sunny.
one question.
Go on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have one question. I wanted to know, I noticed that your book, you have a book called Win, Place, and Show. What does that book tell us? What's it about?
Win, Place, and Show I wrote after the 2006 World Championship with Ed Hearn, the world champion that year, and Douglas Wilson, who took second that year. I took third. We included all 3 speeches we each needed at that time. You needed 3 speeches. And they gave me the content of their 3 speeches, and I used mine 3 speeches. We each analyzed what we went through with each speech, why we wrote it the way we wrote it, what our experience was through the contest. So there's the speech and each speaker's analysis. So you've got a total of 9 championship speeches and evaluation analysis for each of those 9 speeches, as well as an extremely outdated overview of the contest. But the speeches are valuable in and of themselves.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think our time is up, but I would like you to make one final comment. Aaron was trying to ask you that. Maybe you have something, one more concluding sentence to make, Rich, or something important you'd just like to add.
Remember that evaluation, my closing comment on this speech is always that when you're done with evaluating, that your speaker should get up and want to speak again. But I already gave that comment. So now I'm trying to come up with something more genius than that to fulfill the request that you just made. But to me, that's still the most important thing, is that after I hear somebody's evaluation, I should be excited to get up again. Because that's kind of the point. Get up, speak again, learn more, speak again, learn more.
Well, thank you so much. And
thank you for having me.
All give Rich a big round of applause. Now there's always business to take care of at the end of a meeting, and I'd like to call on our timer for her, no doubt, short report.
Thank you, Cheryl. I have a confession to make. Throughout the keynote speech time, I was so drawn into the speech, and I forgot to track the time completely until Cheryl sent a message asking about the time, and then I noticed that was about the time. Thank you, Cheryl, for reminding me of it. I just want to thank Rich for such a wonderful presentation that we learned so much from you. Thank you for the opportunity. And for the timers, I still did my job for Nick, and Nick's speech was 6 minutes and 38 seconds, which was qualified. So yeah, everybody well done. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmaster, for the day shared.
Thank you, Min Lu. That concludes my part of this meeting as well. And I'm sorry I sent so many questions, Rich, but I'm a very curious person and I can't help it. I would like to now return control back to our president, Aaron.
Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause again to Rich for taking his time to give a wonderful evaluation workshop. You all still remember a few key points from his workshop? Just asking from the audience whether you have been paying attention. Anyone, just give me one key word or two.
Always give an evaluation where the speaker will want to speak again.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Aaron, I feel the same way.
Anyone else?
It's about them, but not about you.
No.
I liked his advice about
Egg with sandwich. I really want to say it.
I liked his point at the end about saying one thing that only you would say at an evaluation contest. I thought that was very beneficial.
I like when Rich said, "Love this, what if?" That was really powerful for me. So thank you for that. And Rich, I really appreciate what you did for us today, and particularly for giving me feedback. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I really liked his summary. The summary, be sure to summarize your evaluation. I really liked that one.
To me, the takeaway message is it's not about you, it's about them. Many speakers actually neglected. It's about like when the evaluators come up to the stage, it's their spot time, it's their spotlight, but it's actually about the speaker, not about themselves. So that's one great takeaway that I have been doing, and it serves as a very nice reminder that the essence of evaluation is there. Yep. Anyone else? Final comments? And then if not, I would like to make some announcements before we end the meeting. I would definitely love to welcome Rich back to our club anytime. We always welcome you here. And secondly is that we actually have a keynote workshops basically in June, whereby we will invite all the previous speakers that we have invited this year to have a round robin forum. So basically, to give the sharings, and you have all the best speakers in one room, whereby you can ask questions about them. Not about their lives, though. I mean, like their lives, they'll be talking about their kids, isn't it? But the thing is about how you can get the best value of it. So we here are always trying to deliver the best to you guys. If you have any comments and suggestions, please feedback to us. We always want to focus our members first. And also, when we compare ourselves, we compete along with you. Yeah. So announcements. Next week's regular meeting, and then heads up for the next week will be a new members induction. So for all new members, please do come by and join the wonderful session for new members inductions. I might bring vodka, but I can't drink in front of the lectern because I might get drunk, but it's okay. Well, I think is the most important thing is about having fun as well. And in February, we'll be preparing for contests. Remember, in all online clubs, there is only one contest that they'll be participating, which is called the online text-speech contest. So we'll be making a bit of preparation. I also have a mysterious guest who will be doing workshops about online contests. Who will that person be? It's someone that you might already know, but I'm just giving you that as a hint. And we're also having other contests as well, like humor speech contests, table topics, anything that you see in the regular Toastmasters. We are bringing it live online in February. Although February for me and Ming Liu will be like the time whereby we'll be waiting for our rate packets to be coming by. Or for Lumik, it's giving out rate packets. Because if you're married, you give rate packets. If you're not married, you get rate packets. Yeah, that's the tradition. So stay single. But finally, is the most important thing is that we love everyone's feedbacks. If you have any feedbacks for us, please do let us know. I would like to welcome a few of our guests who have come by to give some feedbacks for today. First of all, I would like to give the priority to Rich. Give some feedbacks for today's meeting. Rich, are you there? Hello, Rich. It's busy, maybe. I'll give it to Chris first.
Hey, I'm sorry.
No worries.
The heater went on again, and I could not hear what you were asking.
Oh, I was saying that give some feedbacks for today's meeting and what it can be better. Evaluation time.
I still couldn't hear the question.
Okay, the question is about your feelings and feedbacks for today.
My feeling and feedback. The guest question. Sorry. This is maybe the fourth online club that I've been able to attend. I mean, not the fourth club, but the fourth time I've attended various clubs, and I really thought today went well, at least until my heater started completely making it impossible for me to interact. But you all handled the meeting very, very well. You made me feel welcome, and Zoom, this technology, has just been really easy for me to figure out, even if I've only used it a few times. So I really like the format of what you're doing and the technology you're using to make it happen.
Thank you, Rich. And if everyone can unmute your mics, how do you find the meeting today for Rich Workshop?
Oh, fantastic.
Great.
Great.
Enlightening.
Really loved it.
Very helpful. Thank you.
We have a nice vibe here.
Yes.
Education.
Next, I would like to welcome Adrian up the stage to do some feedbacks for today.
Oh man, I hope you weren't going to call on me because I am following Rich's suggestions that newbies don't like evaluations. Tonight's meeting was very powerful, very informative. I loved the speech from Nick. I really enjoyed the workshop from Rich because I've always wanted to have a better understanding of evaluations. I felt very welcome to the meeting. I thought people were asking great questions to Rich afterwards. I really appreciated this online club and I like coming and joining. So thank you for having me, and back to you, Aaron.
Thank you very much, Del. Next, I would like to welcome our representative from Witty Birds up the stage too.
Thank you for having me today. I really enjoyed. Rich, thank you for your workshop. Actually, I had this white wash yesterday, and I thought that the evaluation just, I didn't feel anything. So I kind of understand that today. And also, I like that you said that you need to connect with the speaker when you give your evaluation. I think that it's a great point. Thank you for your tips. And also, Nick, you did a good job. No, not whitewash. I'm saying that. Just thank you so much, Aaron. I've been following your page, Competitive Communicators, for a long time. And I meant to visit you. So I'm glad I did today. And you are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, though. Actually, it's not me who's awesome. It's actually the whole team. Everyone in this as a member. Trisha, our timer, Numi, Nick, Darren, Isabel, Matt. I can name all the names here. And they are actually part of this amazing team to make this as a success. It's not just one man's effort. It's everyone's. I can't do it alone. Next, I would like to give it to Chris to give some feedbacks for today.
Good evening. Hi. Great meeting. Enjoyed the information from our guest. I don't think that's me. Okay. Great presentation from our keynote speaker. Very informative. I will be sending him email to get his notes and his handouts and be reviewing it with my wife, Kimberly, who was not able to make it to the meeting tonight. Thank you for having me.
Next, may I welcome Marcellus up the stage?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to thank the speaker, Nick. I think he did a great job. Very personal story that was told with good tone, a lot of animation, excuse me. And then also the evaluator, I think, was a very good insight into how to evaluate other people's performance. So I'd like to thank, and also I'd like to thank Lou for her help in using the on-site tools and offering to help with an email. So thank you all, and back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, and special thanks to two other people just now was reminded by Trisha. Thank you, Cheryl and Sunny as well. And our dear VPM, she is working background like tirelessly. Next, I would like to welcome Sudariga. Are you still there, my dear buddy?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, perfectly fine.
Okay, great. It was an excellent meeting. I see that everyone wants to learn and improve, and that is awesome. It's not just about receiving a certificate or a ribbon or getting ahead and not helping the others to move ahead. Awesome teamwork.
Thank you.
My son saw everyone, and I've been to other meetings, and he said, "Wow, Mom, this is a good meeting."
Thank you.
So kudos to you guys.
No, I can only add one more thing. If you join us, it will be better.
Thank you. I do want to join you. Yes, I do. Yes.
Sure.
I just have a question. The meeting starts at 4:30, and sometimes does it go overtime?
It's slightly different from other online clubs. Most online clubs actually last for 1 hour. Correct me if
Yes.
I'm wrong, witty story birds. So just correct me if I'm wrong. Most of the meetings for online clubs are 1 hour. For our club is 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Okay.
So after the 1 hour and 15 minutes, we are having our socials. Just like now, it's like getting feedbacks.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you. But it's excellent.
Thank you very much. Next,
Thank
I would
you.
like to welcome. I need to really work on my tongue pronunciation. Sadar.
Sridhar. Thanks, Aaron. It's the second time that I'm visiting this club. I really liked the speech from Nick, and it was a very informative presentation from Rich. As a new, as a guest or like a new member on Toastmasters, uh, it's kind of hard for me to give an evaluation to a speaker, and when I was asked to give an evaluation or something like this, I was like, oh, what do I tell? Because I don't really know like on what criteria I have to judge what is right, what is not right. So so this presentation by Rich was useful uh, in order to uh, in order to uh, just list out what are the things that what is good, what is not good. So I found it very informative. And I'm looking forward to join this club and be a member in the next meeting.
Thank you very much. Give a round of applause. We are having a lot of new members, so Lumi will be busy for the new members induction. And finally, may I welcome Dana J to actually give some comments for today? Please do there. Nope, I'm not sure. So I think while waiting, I'll make other announcements first. Okay, so for announcements, I think Sunny actually makes a very good point just to update everyone on the latest changes of Toastmasters. This year, for announcements,